is up? It is Dave.
Serious intro there. It's a what's up.
Back from Epidemic, though.
Yep.
For another album review.
That's why we're serious, Dave.
Shit to do, Duncan.
Yep.
To do.
Stuff to do. Not squeezing this review in against a time scale which we have set ourselves.
Not.
I mean, we completely control the schedule here, and we yet have still managed to put ourselves in a position where I'm clock watching. So
I work best under pressure, Duncan. So we've been checking out the new album from Finnish cosmic genre blenders, Haunted Plasma.
It's a great name.
The band's new album, One, will be released on May 31st.
I'm going with one.
You're going with one, okay.
Because I'm optimistic that there will be a two. Right?
It is the first album, so that makes sense, to be honest. But I've just, I was covering all bases there, just in case.
Yes.
It will be released on May 31st on Svart Records.
I mean, it's from Finland. If it came out on any other label but Svart, I would call that rude. So.
Absolutely. Svart Records is proud to release the debut album from Haunted Plasma, a powerhouse of futuristic synth in symbiosis with the super violent atmospherics of Kosmisha black metal. The phenomenal three-piece band includes members of Oranssi Pazuzu, KXP, Grave Pleasures, and Avico. The album also features guest vocals from Matt McNerney of Hex Vessel, Carpenter Brute, Grave Pleasures, Beast Milk, along with Paulina Lindell from Vu Ono, Dust Mountain, and Ringa Manor from Razut and The Hearing.
Yes.
Apologies.
All of those words easy to pronounce.
Probably fucked up about 75% of that. Haunted Plasma is man meets machine in a cybernetic wasteland set to a conceptual backdrop of William Gibson and Philip K. Dick style mind melt. Ooh. The highly evolved creatives at the heart of Haunted Plasma's sound cite Terry Riley, Massive Attack, and a contemporary take on Krautrock, hypnosis, psychedelic black metal, and 90s techno, resulting in an orgy of mutant sound. Haunted Plasma promises an extraterrestrial experience from some of the foremost contemporary musicians at the heart of the Finnish heavy and avant-garde musical underworld. Haunted Plasma reveals we are liberated futurists, embracing freeform and natural composition, mirroring the merciless forces of cosmic creation. We have a motto to stay true to our feelings, to spawn a sound that's never been heard before. Servants of music, energizing, radical, and pure. One is a rare record of talented musicians coming together to create a completely new sound, which is entirely their own, boldly glowing where no light has shone before. Whether you want to give in to Haunted Plasma sound or not, you are being watched, you are being recorded, and your every move is monitored. The album was recorded...
I knew it! With my tinfoil hat.
The album was recorded by Jiri Rekonen at E-Studio, Juho Van Hanen at Cellar of Deposition, and Timo Kokolampi.
Yeah, you watch that, you do that wrong, you hurt yourself.
At Half Skull. The album was produced by Juho and Haunted Plasma, mixed by Nico Ledonte and at Inner Oscillations, and mastered by Svante Forsback at Chartmakers. Wow.
I mean, you are practically finished.
I think like the main reason I maybe squeezed this into the agenda this evening was it's a Svart release, and I'm always intrigued about Svart releases. You never quite know what you're going to get from Svart Records. Super interesting label, covering such a wide range of styles, and more often than not they are bang on the money when it comes to picking great bands and artists to be part of the roster. Occasionally they go a bit left field. It doesn't always align with my taste, but that's pretty rare. This one on paper certainly had plenty of keywords that piqued the old interest, and some words that were highlighting danger ahead, Duncan. But I was willing to throw the dice on this.
What words were dangerous? I like for your tastes and sensibilities. I wonder what was it was like. Pause for the cause. What are we doing here?
There was a few. I mean, psychedelic stuff. Give or take. Krautrock as well. So there was a couple of things I was like, okay, this might not be for me, but it might be for me. However, my intuition was telling me this might be something someone else would enjoy. These keywords were also thinking.
Did we invite them on the podcast?
There's another guy that I know.
There's another guy. Kaiser Soze. Here he's here.
Who is Kaiser Soze? So, what do we think? What did you make of this debut from Finland by Haunted Plasma? What did you think? Was this in your wheelhouse?
It was, yeah. I mean,
Okay.
this is a safe. I mean, as soon as you start talking about like elements of man meets machine and kind of futurism, and you throw in some of the keywords there, I will preface this in the way I preface pretty much all our reviews by saying I don't read any of the PR. So all I knew was Svart Records, Haunted Plasma, and Dave said there's a wee cheeky guest vocal in here, and you're gonna get it straight away. It's not one of those ones where you're like, where have I heard that voice before? Not like straight away, and your buddy Kavost was right in here.
So distinctive, isn't he?
It's such a his voice. I keep saying this. He is one of the most versatile melodic voices in metal just now. I've heard him do everything from Carpenter Brute now to black metal, and every time I'm like that fits like that's surprise. So he's a great addition here. Also has connections to the Finnish metal scene. Moreover, like his involvement like with Svart Records, I think it's a safe bet. Kind of feels like some of these bands that were mentioned before are Svart adjacent. So once again, that makes sense. The danger of always doing a collaborative project, and I've mentioned this before, can be that sometimes on paper, it sounds a lot better than it actually does. Right. And what you do is you bring too much of your own band over. I always get really wary about like supergroups because I always feel that supergroups just sound like, oh, what would like Guns N' Roses guitar sound over the top of Stone Temple Pilots drumming? Oh, well, there it turns out pretty much like Stone Temple Pilots and Guns N' Roses. You know, like there are a few exceptions to that rule. Not knowing fully the pedigree of all the bands, so I actually think they've done a really good job here of kind of charting their own course. And there's tons of influences in here that like stand out straight away. Massive Attack's an interesting one to mention because I used to listen to a lot of Massive Attack in the 90s, and there are all elements kind of dotted through. I wouldn't say it's pernicious though in any way, shape or form. To me, weirdly, and this it was bizarre because I go in and out of love with this band and they are not a metal band at all. But this sounded like what would happen if you kind of ported a band like Hot Chip over into the kind of the industrial metal world and said, play with distortion. Because vocally there was a lot of quirks, specifically in the opening track Reverse Engineer, that reminded me of Hot Chip. To the point where I was like, is this what Dave was on about, you'll guess? The guest vocalist, I was like, why is Hot Chip dude here? Why is here an album called Haunted Plasma? Turns out it wasn't him. But it reminded me of that. Even the way, I mean, Hot Chip approached music, and I don't want to do a Hot Chip like review, but Hot Chip approached music in a lot of respects to the same way that industrial people approach music, in that it's layers. You start off with a theme and a concept, and then you start to build layers around that theme and concept. Usually build it to a certain point, give you a chorus, and by the second verse, everything's already synced in, so you don't reset it. You have all your layers, and then you carry the track through. The Reverse Engineer plays with those. And by the end of it, and we'll get this out of the way, it's 5 tracks, it's just under 42 minutes in length, so it's lengthy, right? Opening song here is 9 minutes 15, closing song is about 13 minutes. Everything in between is, over 5 minutes, so be prepared, is what I'm saying. By the end of Reverse Engineer, I did kind of feel like, right, I've got a handle on what I'm getting, and I'm not against it, I just don't know if I need another 4 songs of that kind of style prolonged out. There's a reason 9 Inch Nails songs tend to be about 4 minutes in length. That gives them enough time to utilise those tricks, tools, techniques, get them out there, get a hook, and then jump out and then on to the next song. I couldn't have been any more wrong if I tried. For 5 songs here, this really goes all over the place in the best possible ways, connective tissue all right through, and that was evident straight away with Machines Like Us. It's the one that features our buddy, I believe, unless I've picked that. It's the one that features our buddy Kvost. Noticeable voice, kicks right in. And what I loved about this track is like the change in pace straight away. So the first track is, it kind of almost feels like a fucking Greek challenge of pushing this massive stone up a hill to see it roll down. It's very methodical, very paced, very locked in, very meticulous. You're getting almost like fast disco beats on, you know, Machines Like Us. It's rapid hi-hat, it's energetic, it's got a lot of momentum behind it. But what I loved about it is these kind of hauntingly picked clean guitars that just echo in the background against space, where Reverse Engineer has very little space in its sound. Machines Like Us, it actually allows like reverby guitar to sit comfortably over the top without filling all the different parts with noise. It's a great song. By about the midway mark, you're getting like proper full-on kind of synthy stuff that just does my heart good. Little kind of arpeggiators and shit like that kicking in. It's awesome. And then once again, I got to the end of that song and I was like, right, cool, I don't know what we're getting then. And then Spectral Embrace hits in, and it is chef's kiss good, man. Like really fucking excellent midpoint to this. It's, you know, it's the middle point of the album. It's over halfway through the runtime of the album. And it is this big, expansive, industrial kind of future prog track. It's the weirdest thing to describe. It's the one that's the most playful with space out of all the songs in here, and that there's lots of stuff panning and hitting you from all different directions in the production. It's really clever, but it's never one step too far or distracting. If anything, I think it just adds, and the production work on this one is excellent. You get that feeling of, there's like tinges of almost kind of 80s Depeche Mode in here, kind of embracing vocodery vocals, you know, like proper full-on, like old school vocode or transformer effect vocals, you know what I mean? I was waiting for Autobots transform. It's really fucking good though, because the vocals in that track kind of belie the playfulness of it, so you're getting this very almost meticulous vocodery monotone performance of vocals, and it's everything that the music is doing is actually the melody.
Yeah,
which is really fucking cool. The middle of the track opens up though, and you get what I would class as the Spectral Embrace, which kind of feels like getting, for lack of a better word, a suck or tug job from a ghost. It's just like it's just feathery, it's light, it's nice. It just did me really good. But there's loads of sounds here. It's very uplifting in the middle. And it made me think, actually, potential outlet for this band moving forward might be working on scores. Because I heard this track and I was thinking like a proper neo thriller or something like that. This sort of music would totally sit as a soundtrack. Loved it. We jump into Echoes. Echoes is the calm before the storm, so to speak. It's the one that wears its kind of moody, broody, echoey, very industrial kind of elements in there. A little bit of kind of 90s kind of, I was gonna say techno minus the beat. It's really, 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 really cool. It's another one where it's playing with space. It's the slowest track, but it plays with space and atmosphere. And then continues to kind of weirdly progress up, like really kind of lush chord sequences. And then you get into the title track, which is Haunted Plasma, which is a 13-minute industrial track of the instrumental persuasion with huge swathes of prog, and there's a wee kind of almost melodic blackened elements to some of the guitar playing, and it's great. You know, I like kind of wafts through, and I was worried about the runtime of this one when we were coming into it, because I felt it was going to be another Reverse Engineer, and having one of them on an album is fine. I think they do enough of it. I think the track is maybe a shade too long, if I'm honest. I think they play maybe through one or two elements a bit too much. But that being said, it's really about the only foot wrong that this album does, and there's still plenty going on here to keep you going. So yeah, a great pedigree of artists involved with it, a really cool concept for an album. really well produced, really well delivered. It stands out amongst those bands in that genre as well. It sounds different enough, without being so different that you can't get into it. Yeah, I mean, if you thought I was going to like it, Dave, turns out you were fucking right. How did you get on with it, with all your worry and concern of keywords being thrown at you?
Our thoughts on this are weirdly aligned. Like, sometimes I just wonder how the fuck we end up in the same place. Like, it's just,
but as well, it's an enduring friendship.
Because we don't talk about these albums before we review them, so I have no idea what you're going to say, or if
very seldom do we ever talk about anything, and we certainly don't talk about things like scoring or where we land on things ever.
So yeah, this is kind of bizarre, but I had a lot of the same thoughts and picked up a lot of the same things. Firstly, though, this album fucking flies in. Like, I could not believe it was 40 minutes long. I was like, it was over before it even begun. I was like, this can't be fucking finished already. It just seemed to fly by. The last track is maybe the first time that I looked at my kind of media player to see where I was in the album, and I was like, what the fuck? But I'll come back to that track. I weirdly enjoyed this way more than I expected. I mentioned there were some concerning words in the press release. Not a huge fan of psychedelic music, krautrock, black metal, really, avant-garde, but this is done in a way that kind of incorporates those elements without them being obtrusive, or done in a way that feels like they're trying to be weird for the sake of it.
They're folded in really well.
Yeah, I feel like certain like avant-garde bands almost try too hard to be like unconventional and try and put themselves in this like, oh, we're in this kind of elitist category that only
my
certain
lyrics
people
will only be written with a quill.
Yeah, exactly. Haunted Plasma are not that band. As unique as this is, it's written in a way that balances that weirdness with an accessibility, mainly in the vocals. It's where you'll find that kind of hook. But even in some of the music, they've written this in a way that isn't like difficult to grasp. And the band name and the artwork suits the sound like very well. It's very futuristic. It's laden with electronics, sci-fi elements. I agree. I got a huge kind of like kind of soundtrack-esque feel to this album. I think if you took the vocals out a lot of these tracks, it would feel like you were listening to a 70s or 80s sci-fi movie score. It has that kind of size and grandeur. It gets very dark in places to shift the mood, like a change of scene in a movie. Instrumentation is also quite repetitive at times, like a score would be. It's not like overly complicated. I think that first track pretty much repeats the same chord progressions for the whole track. But the vocal ideas and the melodies kind of give you a more of a focal point to follow through the album. And by that I don't mean like the music just stays the same. They add in a lot of different ideas in the form of electronics or various synth sounds, adding this like kind of dystopian vibe to the album, or some different guitar leads. There's some kind of like post-punk tones in there as well. It kind of adds a bit of something organic to the album. And in that respect, it is quite freeform. Like, it doesn't really have a conventional feel, which again kind of gives off more of a movie score vibe to me. And even though the music feels like the kind of pulse of this album, driving a lot of the momentum or setting the tone, there are certain tracks where the vocals are more or just as important. The front half of the album is killer. Like, I think Reverse Engineer, Machines Like Us, I think they both feature Matt from Grave Pleasures. So you're basically kind of guaranteed that really fucking great vocal hook, and haunting melody.
But the guy from Hot Chip just appeared. No, he's definitely not on the album. Can we get confirmation, please? Did the Hot Chip dude appear on this? The wee guy with the glasses. Can we get confirmation, please?
But even on tracks like Echoes, they deliver a different type of vocal. Something a bit more esoteric or a little bit kind of trippy, which for me I think was just as captivating. Echoes kind of felt like a kind of pivotal moment in the album, like the big scene in the movie, which kind of sets up the final track, Haunted Plasma. And I enjoyed a lot of the closing track. It actually reminded me a little of a band we reviewed last year, I think it was, called Reformat.
I love that album.
It's a bit more up-tempo, heavily electronic, and they kind of use the synths as vocals, which is something that Reformat also did. I totally agree. I think it was a little long, if I'm honest. of cool ideas, and they are very clever in the way they layer and build the tracks up. But at almost like 13 minutes, it did feel like it was maybe repeating itself a little too much. That being said, as an album, this didn't feel 40 minutes long. Like, in fact, I kind of felt like it could have been a track or two longer, if I'm honest. I'd have been absolutely fine with that. Finally, like the production, really cool in the way they've like balanced this between electronic and kind of natural instrumentation. They've kept a lot of the drums more traditional, whilst also incorporating electronic drums throughout it as well. Guitars are also quite natural sounding, which when they kind of like couple that with the heavier electronic parts, it makes this album sound huge. It's got a really cool balance they've captured on the album. And obviously the band had a lot to do with the production, but I think they've nailed it. I think it'd be quite easy to let the electronics overpower this release.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, that's generally the concern when people that aren't necessarily known for doing synth-based or electronic music do it as a side project. They don't understand it as an element to be used in a band. It isn't the band, right? So,
yeah, I think they've controlled it very well. As a weird kind of like side note, we're also reviewing a set of headphones this week. Check out our tech reviews on YouTube. But this album was actually it was actually a really good way to get me prepared for the album we'll be talking about on that review, which is also very electronic and industrial. So for people that aren't necessarily big industrial or electronic fans, this is actually a really good album to start with. It's got a bit of crossover from rock and post-punk, so it kind of helps ease that transition. And as I said earlier, this band, they're not pretentious with it either, so there's no kind of worry of that. But yeah, I enjoyed this a lot more than I thought I was going to before I went into it. Scores, what are you thinking for Haunted Plasma's debut album?
I mean, I really liked this. Like I said, the only thing that kind of knocks it down a little bit for me is I think the closing track is a bit too long. It's maybe one or two ideas looped longer than it should be. Out with that, it's a stunning start for me, and it's very much my sort of music. So as a entry for Ray in here, I'd happily give this one a 4.
I totally agree. 4 was the kind of score I was feeling in this one as well. Thoroughly enjoyable. Really good kind of flow to the album. As I said, I really dig that kind of soundtrack kind of side. I agree with you. Like, I think these guys could score something as well.
Easily flex over into that without much trouble at all.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, check this one out. A lot of cool stuff going on. For a debut album, I know they've got like quite a strong pedigree with the bands they've been in, but very impressive for a debut release, and I'm definitely interested to hear what they do after this. Haunted Plasma and One Eye could be out on Svart Records on May 31st. I'll put links below to the band, to the pre-order, all that sort of stuff, so you can check out. That is the review. Thank you for checking out. We'll be back with another review very soon, but until then, take care. Speak to you soon.
Bye, everyone.